歡迎嚟到新一集嘅相聚嚇。今日咧非常榮幸，我哋請到咧係嚟自呢個美國嘅全世界其中一個最出名嘅呢個畫Mandala畫嘅呢個 Paul Heussenstamm。咁我哋跟住落嚟咧就會講英文㗎啦。Okay, from now on we're going to speak in English. So Paul, welcome to Hong Kong.
Thank you.
I'm so honored to have you here.
I'm honored to be here.
Oh, you're just being nice. Okay, so what should we talk about? I want to know everything about your life. How do you become an artist? And what do you know about life that we don't know? And why are you so lucky, honestly?
Well, the first thing is I'm an artist because I was born to be an artist. But it took me until I was 42. So the first, basically, half the life to figure it out.
Oh, you mean you start your life as a painter from
when I started about 41 when I first went full time, and then the year when I was 42 was the first year where I was free enough to be an artist. And when you wind back the story, a little bit of my history, I've always had such great luck. You know, it's been part of my life. I've suffered. First of all, as an artist, you're going to have great, like the Buddha said, there's more joy than you can imagine, and there's more pain than you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody that's an artist has discovered, or in his life, I've lived through both. And in my spiritual practice, you only know beauty and joy and goodness and equal to what you know about the darker parts, the suffering. If you don't know anything about suffering, you don't know anything about joy. They're equal.
Goodness.
That is the yin and yang exactly.
Only lately I knew it. One of my friends asked me, why are you so happy? I said, you have to suffer enough
That's right.
to be as happy as I am now.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden I feel like I'm so wise to say something like this.
Well, you have a lot of years of experience. So when you look back spiritually speaking, in the old days, you know, like 1,000 years ago, when you were approximately 40 years of age is when you went into the mystery schools and you study and you begin to learn a spiritual practice. So for me, that was just about right. When I was young in high school, I was a very, very good surfer. First of all, I was raised by parents that were 50 years ahead of time. They were conscious about food, conscious about diet. I mean, they were so against alcohol, so against smoking.
Wow.
We only had health food. I remember when I was a kid, going to school with an avocado sandwich, and the kids didn't know what an avocado was. I remember taking yogurt in a cup with fruit, and what's yogurt? They didn't, in those days, that was the 50s, they didn't know it. And my father was a meditator. He dressed up like a guru sometimes.
Whoa.
So I was raised in a home. By the time I was 21, and my brothers were 19 and 17, all three of us had already found spiritual teachers.
Wow.
Because of my father, and we went off in that life. So I got very lucky in the household that I was born in that set the table for me later on in life being an artist.
And that's why you're so fit. You're not
I'm completely fit.
Normal American, like, you know what I mean.
So I'm going to give you my quote. You'll never forget this.
Okay.
When you get a little older, I work on myself all day, every day. I work on myself all day, every day.
In what way? Exercise?
I'm working with my mind. I'm doing yoga. This morning I swam, I don't know, a mile-long swim. I've already done 30 or 40 minutes of yoga today. If I wasn't here, I'd be out there doing yoga. I usually do yoga twice a day.
Oh, wow.
Because I love being a surfer. And I still surf. At my age, people don't surf.
Yeah.
And when I go out surfing and the waves are good, I'm competing against guys that are 20. And I'm 50 years older than them. So keeping my body in shape is part of my spiritual practice.
Oh, okay.
So when I first left my home, I was a really good surfer because I was raised on the beach by my parents. And I got a job in a surf shop.
So lucky.
When I was 15, I got a job in a surf shop. And before that, I worked at a place called Kentucky Fried Chicken. And
we have that in Hong Kong?
I'm sorry that you have. Americans, the food, don't ever eat there, right? So I used to cook greasy chicken for $1 US an hour.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. So when I got the job at the surf shop, I was paid by the number of surfboards I sold. And the first weekend, in 2 days, I made $80. And I thought $80 was like $8,000. The guy that owned the thing peeled off $80. I went home and I went, God, I'm a lucky guy.
Make tons of money.
And I worked there for a long time, and then I had my own surf shop. And then the surf shops, I had 6 surf shops. And I was the first person ever, I got a big award, to put really nice clothes in the surf shops. So people would come into my surf shop and there was beautiful clothes like Polo or Pierre Cardin.
Yeah.
I bought those things in surf shops. What happened because of what I did is the surf shops owners would come into my store and they would look at my stuff and said, okay, let's make this, just put our name on it. Like all the Rip Curl, you don't know these names, Gotcha, Quicksilver, they all started doing that.
Quicksilver, I know.
Right. And so in 1987, I won an award from 27,000 stores. They voted me as the most influential retailer in the Western United States. It was a big deal. I had to have a tux, go up to LA, get my trophy. I stand up on the stage with other famous people like Ralph Lauren, and I won.
I'm jealous.
I won.
I'm jealous.
They couldn't believe it.
How old were you?
I was
20?
late 30s, late 30s, about to be 40. But that was the peak. When I look back, that was the peak of my success.
One of your peaks.
Because during that time, I had a very dark period where I walked around very depressed, and depression is a very good thing if it's handled right, that my life didn't mean anything.
Can you talk more about that? Because a lot of people are going through this.
Well, there's a lot of things like to me, I went through a midlife crisis then, and it was one of the most important things ever. Everybody should have a midlife crisis. If you're not having a midlife crisis, then how do you transform? So for me, I had this really difficult 3 or 4 months where I thought I was dying, and I might have jumped off a building, but I didn't.
My goodness.
And I would never, because I had 2 sons.
Yeah.
And so when I thought about it, I had each son in there, Dad, no, Dad, no. That was the kind of, I wasn't going to do it, but I could have done it. And when I came out of that, first of all, earlier that I went to art college, graduated, and then I just didn't do anything, went into my little empire. I was building an empire. And so when I came through my crisis, I came through it as doing art. I did art. Art healed me. Art is healing. My workshops it's all about healing. And so what happened to me is I still owned all these things. I was making very good money. I lived in a private gate-guarded community, driving a brand new car.
Why were you depressed then? You should be so happy.
But there was no meaning.
Oh, okay.
There was no... See, women make a statement, and I believe they're absolutely right, when they say, what have you done for me lately? And so what that means is, if you're in the present moment, what are you doing? For me. So in that present moment, I couldn't find a reason to be happy. I had money.
Yeah,
I had a nice marriage. I married the mayor's daughter. I had 2 kids, living in a gate-guarded community, but it all meant nothing. So I went away for 5 or 6 weeks and just walked in the desert, and I had friends that lived out there. It was a spiritual community. I just walked around trying to figure out what my life was.
Yeah.
And if my life didn't go on, then I could have maybe died. But I knew to get through my depression, I had to make the steps forward. And this is a thing I'm about to tell you about depression. When you're in a depression, you're constantly thinking. And if you do anything that puts you in the wrong direction, the depression gets larger. If you do anything in the right direction, I don't care if it's going for a walk, the depression lifts just a little bit. And so what I found out was, that was the first time my soul had come forward and said directly to me, Paul, the life you're living is not the life you're born to live.
Oh.
And I realized that over that year or 2, that the life that I lived was over. And it had nothing to do with me and what I wanted. It had to do with my soul and what she had paved the way for me, that I would have never found being an artist. That was your question. I've given you a long answer. But without my soul's participation, I could have never been the artist that I am today for the last 40 years.
And then how do you start? You just start to paint.
Okay, it's a good. Yes,
and
start
paint
painting.
your pain
Okay, so
away.
the first thing I did, that's a wonderful thing. That should be a book. Paint your pain away. Or a poem. Paint your pain away. That's a good one. Paint your pain away. So what I did is I started taking classes, and years before I did a spiritual workshop with one of my teachers, whose name was Brew Joy, who actually taught here in Hong Kong.
He's very famous.
I was with him for 34 years.
He's not here, right?
He died many years ago of pancreatic cancer.
He's very famous.
So, and in my workshop, when I was there for 14 days, it was a very transformational workshop. My roommate was an artist, and I was the surf shop. So when I started to do art, I called up my friend. His name is Ken Goldman. And I said, hey, how'd you like to take on a student? You're such a good artist. And he thought about it, and he goes, well, I've never had a student before, so here's another one of those magic things. I'll take you on. So I used to drive my brand new BMW down once a week, and I spent the whole day with Ken drawing and pastels and teaching. And I spent a whole year with him 1 day a week, and then I realized that the kind of art he was doing was not the kind of art I wanted to do. Oh. It didn't feel right. At first I thought, but as I got into it, and then when I talked to other artists, the most important thing for an artist is find something that you have the word is niche. Find your niche. Find something that you can do and you could do it well. So at the time I was doing all these different things. I was trying pastels and painting and oil painting and sculpture. I was doing all these things. And by the way, I grew up with my father always had a big art studio, and I was a kid going in there, and he'd always be working on paintings or sculpture, and my mother was an art teacher. And
everything is prepared for you.
Yeah, and they actually met over the easel. They met painting together in art class, and my dad got my mom pregnant with me, and then they had to run off and have a secret marriage.
Oh my God, this is so romantic.
She was Jewish and he was German.
Oh my God.
And this was 4 years after the war.
So what did the parents said?
Very, very upset. The Jewish parents.
Oh.
And then they had no money, so they had to move in, and they lived. There was my grandmother and the 4 kids lived in one house, and in came my mother, Frances, living in that house. They had no money.
Gosh,
and they lived.
Really interesting life, Paul.
Yeah, they
very interesting.
And then I came along right there. So yeah, it's pretty funny. So anyway, I went and studied with Ken, and then I said, this is not my way. So I started trying all different kinds of art. I was trying all different kinds of art. And then I was studying on a regular basis with Bruja. When I was doing my dark side, Bruja invited me out, so I had a personal relationship with him most people didn't have, where it would just be him and me for 3 days.
And we'd
walk in the desert and we'd talk, and he'd put his arms around me, and he said, you really love your father, you got to learn to love your mother, because my mother's very difficult. It's funny because Jesus and I have something in common. I already said this. We both have Jewish mothers, so I know what Jesus had to go through. Jewish mothers are not easy. Anyway, so I was doing these spiritual workshops. I had plenty of money. I had the surf shops. I was building a little empire, you know. I'm famous for I have this thing at home from the LA County Mart where everybody buys their clothes saying, I won the Marty Award, Men's Apparel Retail Award, of 27,000 stores. Mine was number 1.
Oh my goodness.
Because my store was beautiful. I had art on the walls, and I had all this beautiful stuff. So all these big companies, these big like May Company and all these giant companies would send their people to my store to buy what I was buying for their future.
Oh.
So my little surf shop changed the whole surfing industry.
Wow.
It went from nothing to a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I was a part of that. And that
amazing.
That was my first half of my life, and then it all went away. So I was doing the workshops with Brujoy, and he called me one day as a friend. He goes, Paul, you're signed up for this workshop. It's called Reconnecting with Your Soul. Are you making sure you're coming? And I go, Brew, you don't call, what, you calling me? Make sure I'm coming. The workshop starts tomorrow. Of course I'm coming. Why are you calling? He goes, Paul, this is the most creative workshop I've ever done, and I want you there. Oh. And I says, what do you mean? He goes, just show up. So I hung up, got up at the crack of dawn, drove 6 hours across the desert, which I always do. And then I got there in the morning, and I brought my painting stuff, a blank canvas, and a bunch of acrylic paints. And I went, and there was only 11 people. This is another one of these magic moments. There's 11 people, and I went in and I sat down, and Brewjoy's here, and I'm sitting here, and a woman comes in to me, sits next to me, and says, "Hello, I'm Barbara Streisand." And I said, I know who you are.
I almost swear.
Right? And it's funny with Barbara because for the next couple of days, I avoided her. And then one day, she's Barbara Streisand, right? She was the most famous.
Take a picture.
No, she got angry at me.
Why?
She grabbed me, put me right in front of her, and said, "Promise me, Paul, big moment in my life, that you would never avoid me." And I went,
"You're playing game with her. You're playing game with her."
I said, "I will never avoid you, Barbara." And then once she knew that, and she knew that I had a Jewish mother. She found that out.
She's Jewish.
She needed somebody. She lost, in her fame, she had lost the ability to walk anywhere in the world safely.
Oh yeah.
So she had to have somebody, in the public, bodyguards, but out there in the desert retreat, I was her bodyguard. So for the next 7 or 8 days, whenever she needed to go a walk, somebody would say, "Hey, Barbara wants to go for a walk," and I volunteered to do it. Yeah. And so I wish I could have tape recorded some of the things she said. Obviously, you couldn't.
She's a great person.
She was wonderful and marvelous. The real Barbara Streisand is a generous, kind, loving person. And in person, she was incredibly beautiful. One of the most beautiful, attractively beautiful, not how much is her heart, but her looks in person were just incredibly striking. And then on the other side of the room, this is why Bruce said you have to come, was Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, in the middle of Star Wars. So whenever she'd go by, we'd all go, "Princess, princess, princess." And I got to talk.
What did she say about it?
She would just laugh. She was so, I think she was the first person I ever talked to that was overtly bipolar. Really bipolar.
Wow.
And you'd be sitting talking with her, and Brewjoy had this thing with these pool balls, and you'd pick out a pool ball, and that's where you sat in the morning. There was a table, right? And you'd sit wherever your color was. So if you wanted to be next to Brewjoy, you'd look for the ball that was 1 to sit next to him. Oh. So many mornings I'd sit next to Carrie Fisher, and you'd be talking to her about Paul Simon or whatever she was talking about. And then you'd eat, and you come back a few minutes later, and it was like she was a different person. She'd switch. Perfect for acting. That's what actors do. They switch to people, right? And I'd sit there and go, "Well, the girl's kind of crazy." I didn't know what bipolar is. I didn't know that till years later when people said, "Oh yeah, Carrie Fisher, she's bipolar." I just thought she was weird, right?
That's not bipolar.
Well,
it's not like
but she changed personalities.
Yeah, that's not bipolar.
But I didn't know. I'm 33, 34, 35. I've never painted a mandala, and I'm having this. I asked her a question and go, "Okay, last week I was surfing. What were you doing last week?" And she goes, "Well, last week I was on an elephant in South India with my friend, and we dropped LSD, and we were riding elephants all day around in the jungle." And I thought, I'm a little surf shop guy. I live in this little small life, and I couldn't even imagine being in India on an elephant with LSD.
Yeah.
That's crazy in my mind. My parents were really against drugs. Oh. They told us right off the bat, marijuana, cocaine. They knew. They were aware of the thing, smoking especially. So that week...
So you don't smoke either?
I've had 2 cigarettes in my life.
Me too.
And I was like I was like 12. And there was girls and boys around. We were like... and it just... Too. No, my parents... my parents...
It's really not my thing.
No. And when when I walked here this morning, when we were walking, there was a very nice looking young Chinese woman sitting there smoking a cigarette, and I said, "Oh my God, can you please wake up, come out of that. It's going to shorten your life by 15 years. That's the average, right?"
Well, they know.
And they can't stop it.
They can't stop it. Yeah. They can stop eating rice, but not smoking. That's the Chinese way saying.
You stop eating rice?
Yeah, I can stop
like that
eating
statement.
rice, but don't ask me to quit
But if they stopped eating rice, what would they eat? I tried some of that in Beijing, some of that Chinese bread that's flat like a tortilla. wasn't very good. It's not a substitute for rice. Rice is way better. And I love rice. So
You're Jewish.
Yeah.
Of course you love rice.
So back to the workshop. So we're in this workshop, and I go into my room, and I go, what? I was way over my head. I was going, wow. And there was the other people. There was doctors in there. There was Barbara Streisand had been there because this couple took care of. They were her keepers. They took care of her finest life. Beautiful people. I mean, they're lovely people. And they knew about me. That my mother met Brujoy, and so they had Barbara. They had said, Barbara, Paul's good. You use him to walk. They didn't want to do it. They wanted me to walk her, you know. So I went back to my room, and I thought, I'm just going to paint something. I'm going to start in the middle and work out. Well, it just turned into this beautiful mandala, and it was called compensatory patterns. Black and white in the yin and the yang are not opposites. They're compensatory, meaning one is dependent on the other.
Oh, wow.
You can't have...
I never heard of it.
Well, Shiva and Shakti are the same way. If you take away Shakti, Shiva ceases to exist. They're compensatory. You can't describe one without the other, you know? So anyway, I started to paint this mandala, and it was all the feminine holding hands, heart to heart. It was this beautiful mandala. And on the last day, when you had to share your stuff, that I found a gold tablecloth, and I came into the room before we met in this little circle like here. And it was in a big octagon. Brujoy had this octagon, all glass, and you're just looking out over the desert. There's no people. And I covered it up. And when it was my turn, I'm remembering something I haven't remembered in a long time. This is bringing up a very memory. You'll laugh at this. Don't let me forget to share this. Anyway, when it came to my turn, I just pulled off the gold sheet. And there was a mandala there. And I kind of didn't know what it was. I remember having a flashback when I was very young, and I took a little LSD, kind of that mandala thing. And everybody in the room, we'd been together for 10 days. We were very, very connected. They were looking around. Nobody said a word for like 5 minutes. I'm going, uh-oh, what did I do?
Yeah.
Did I do something wrong? Are they going to slap me? I didn't know. And then Brujoy looked at me. You know, I got Barbara Streisand here, I got Carrie Fisher there. It's like a big moment in my magical life.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and this is the thing I was going to say. And Bru goes, how do you feel? And I got shivers. I started shivering. And I said, I feel like a 13-year-old girl, and I just took off my clothes in front of you. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah,
I haven't had that memory.
Where did it come from?
I haven't had that memory in a long time.
But it was
just
so
came up now.
authentic. It just came out.
Yeah, because everybody was stunned. You have to admit, when you're in a long workshop, your level of consciousness, especially the Brujo, goes up and up. And we were at the apex. We were completely at a high level. And all of a sudden, this powerful painting comes out. And the painting had such power that nobody could speak for a long time. Everybody was silent. And then when they asked me that thing, I remember Brujoy saying, he made some kind of noise, like, oh, you know, like a feeling thing. And I looked around, and all the women were looking at me like, you know, what did I just say? Should I say the wrong thing? You know, I'm just a young man. I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I'm in my early 30s. I'm a surfer. And the reaction was amazing, because Brujoy right then said, he said, I'm going to give you a blank check, and you're just going to fill it out. I want this painting here. And then Barbara Streisand says, when you get home, will you make me one? Will you make me one? Which I did. And so that's how the whole...
That was the first one, right?
That was the first one.
Wow. Already
So look at this in life. Okay, you're in life. Everybody in this room has a life. You have a life. Tell me what the odds are of me being in a tiny circle in the middle of nowhere with at that time, the two of the most famous women, still now, top 25, 50 in the world, being there, and I painted a mandala. And the Brujoy bought the mandala in front of everybody, and he gave me a blank check, said fill it out.
Blank check.
I filled it out, I remember, for $400. Because $400 was a stable note. First of all, I didn't need money.
Yeah.
Right, I needed money. As an artist, you need money. If you don't, otherwise you're going to be a waiter at night and an artist at day,
yes.
right? So I filled out 400 because 4 is a stable number, you know. And in mandalas, like the square here is the masculine, that's the stability. And then the feminine is the dynamism. And when you put a circle inside of a square and it's just right, there's a dynamism. It's like when you're young and you fall in love, you can feel that dynamism.
Yes.
You can't make it happen and you can't make it go away. It's just there. And if the way I look at it, if the soul says no in the relationship, there's nothing you can do. It's just a matter of time and the relationship's going to be over. You know, I mean, I'm jumping ahead to my future, but so I did the painting, and then you're going to crack up. I drove home, and in the old days, this was in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a bookstore called the Bodhi Tree Bookstore. And it was very famous. It had all around the room all these spiritual teachers. And it had every spiritual book from all over the world. So everybody would go to that bookstore. This was 20 years before the internet. Now every spiritual teacher is on the internet. I can have everything in the world that's good and has something is on the internet. The problem is now there's a lot of bad stuff on there that's AI is making stuff that's not true, you know? Like fish jumping into boats. I've seen some stuff that's so funny. So anyway, I go home, and all my friends are on the beach, and I just tell, hey, I was just Barbara Streisand and Carrie Fisher. They're all going, no, come on, you're telling us.
You're lying.
You're lying. I go, no, this magic thing happened. And then everybody there, especially the women, because way more women went to Brujoy than men. It's 10-1, you know. So all the women that were there, they're going, we're going to, when can we sign up? How do we sign up, right? So the very next day, I drove up to LA, and I went to the Bodhi Tree. And I walked in the door, and there's Robin Williams, looking at the same books I'm looking at. And I knew him because I'd seen him 2 or 3 times before he was famous.
He was famous.
Before he was famous.
Oh, before that.
This was before he was famous. But I knew who he was.
Him.
He's one of the best, funniest comedians ever.
Yes.
You want to have a good time? Go on YouTube and put Robin Williams, and you just laugh your head off. There's one scene with a famous actress, and Robin Williams tells funny she's drinking water on Johnny Carson, just spits it out all over this famous actress. So anyway, I thought Robin Williams, and then there's a little theme song to the Twilight Zone. If you ever watched that when you were a kid, it goes dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah.
So I'm walking around there and I said hi to Robin. I go, I know who you are. I've seen you. And he said hi. And then, you know, when I'm around famous people, I don't want to bother them, right? So I went and asked the guy, where's the mandala books? And I bought 4 mandala books. Oh. Okay. One of them was Carl Jung's book. Very good. It was called Mandala Symbolism. Another one was called The Mandala by Jose and Miriam Arguelles, and they're the ones that did years ago in the United States. We had a thing called the harmonic convergence where people went to all the sacred sites. Actually, one of my cousins met his wife at one of the harmonic convergence. So there was that book. There was another book that I completely forgot, and there was a third book, a fourth, that was a big thick notebook that was called Healing Through Mandala Symbolism. So I bought all 4. I had plenty of money, you know. I don't think credit cards were then. I'm not sure. It could have been credit cards. If not, we'd write a check. We'd give a check and walk out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, remember those days?
Yeah.
Checks. I probably write now, in my business, 30 checks a year. I used to write 300-400, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 when my business was big. So anyway, I buy the books, and then I read this notebook. And it's by a Jewish woman, Dr. Beverly Schaefer. And I read the whole book. I read it cover to cover, and I go, this is amazing. And in the back of the book is her card. This was like she made 10 copies or something. She got her master's degree in healing of mandalas. She'd stapled her card in with a phone number. And it's funny because the book had all these beautiful mandalas in it, but they were all black and white.
Oh.
You know why?
Why?
Because color copies hadn't been invented yet. You couldn't make a color copy.
So that was long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
Oh.
So people have wanted to put my mandalas in books. I've been in 50 books. But some people say, hey, we want to run it in black and white. And I've always said, you know,
black and white.
That's like taking a black and white picture of a rainbow. It's not right, right?
And the world is not black and white?
Yeah, no, it's... So anyway, I read her book. I called her up. I just called her. I'm saying, hey, Paul, I'm Paul.
Paul.
I did a mandala one. And I said, I liked your book. Do you ever take on students? And she goes, well, I'm a therapist, but I don't take on art. Art is not my thing. And I go, well, fine. Teach me art. We can do art. And she goes, $100 an hour. And that's like today, $500 an hour. You know?
US dollar.
US dollars. And I went, well, no. I don't need therapy, just art. Can we do art? And she goes, okay, I'll give you 2 to 3 hours for $100, which is still a lot of money in those days.
Oh.
A lot of money.
But you got money.
I had money. That's what I said. I would have paid 200, but I bargained her down to 100. That's a Jewish thing, you know?
Yes, I know.
So I went up there, and it's funny, you probably have never heard these stories. I could talk all day, you know? So I went up there, and Beverly Hills, I don't know, somewhere in Hong Kong you have where the wealthiest people live, right? Hills. We went to that one lady's house that one time. Remember, she was so wealthy. So her house was on top of Beverly Hills. She had tennis courts, gardens,
swimming pool.
Everything. She had a grove with, I remember, oranges and lemons, and she lived in this giant big house by herself, right? So I knocked on the door, and I stood there. I'm 37, 38, something like that, blonde, cute young man, right? And here comes this older woman, probably about 50, 55, and we just looked at each other.
Chemistry?
Right.
There's chemistry?
Well, yeah, but this was 20 years before we understood what a cougar was.
What's a cougar?
A cougar's an older woman that likes a younger man. That's what we call a cougar.
Okay.
So she liked me, I could tell. Remember you talked about earlier about the attraction?
Yes.
Could feel it a moment. And I said, hey, I would really like to study with you. And she goes, hey, I met your mother once.
Oh.
And my mother she became a very well-known therapist. She wrote a book. And that might have opened the door to me because she'd heard of my mother, because the Heussenstamm name. So she took me on as a student. And we went in there, and I walked over her house, and it was the first house I ever was in. It was like a museum. She went all over the world collecting things from Egypt and Israel, and it was just beautiful. And her paintings were big, and they were very sloppy in those days. They didn't have the equipment we have today. And I asked her to buy one, and she goes, Paul, these paintings are sacred. Things that are sacred can't be bought and sold. And I went, so you're telling me anything that's sacred can't be? I've always remembered this, because when I look at things for sale, I go, well, if it's sacred, why is it for sale? Right?
Oh.
Like when you tried to buy land from the early Americans, the Indians, if they had a hard time selling land because it was sacred.
Yeah.
You know? And of course we took, very big advantage of them. So anyway, the first thing she talked to me, I said, well, how'd you get into mandalas? She goes, my husband, who I love dearly, and he owned a key company. And on the wall, keys. In those days, you had to make keys. Now you have it's all on the phone, right? So there was a mandala of all his keys. There was like 300 keys, and beautiful one, big. All her paintings were huge. And she goes, all those keys were from my husband. And she goes, when my husband died, he died of cancer. In those days, there wasn't so much cancer, but he died of cancer. And my son, on the way home from the funeral, got in an accident and died. I lost them both in the same day. My only son.
Oh my God.
So she said, I found the mandala as a way of healing. And her book was her master's thesis. She got her master's degree in the healing potential of the mandala, right? And years ago, it's been about 5 years ago now, I had the book, it's Color Yourself Calm. It was produced in Europe by 4 women, and they sat down and did mandalas a couple of nights, and they said, hey, we get so calm. So they looked around the world for somebody doing mandalas, and they found me, mandalas.com or mandala.com, and I did this book for them, but they already knew, before I even flew to Europe and got there, that the mandalas change your consciousness, right? So with this woman, she taught me a whole lot of things about templates and make things. We have so much easier to make a painting now than it was then, because you're talking 50 years of tools and stuff, So she taught me all these things, and after about 3 months, I went up there once a week, and it was like a 2-hour drive both ways. It was a commitment by me. And I go, Dr. Schleifer, I love what you've taught me, but I feel guilty. I don't, can I use this stuff? It's your stuff. And she goes, this is another quote in my magical life. She goes, you know, Paul, nobody's ever come along like you. So all the stuff I've taught you, I'm now giving it to you. You take it and you go out to the world and see what you can do with it. And I went, okay.
You're
right?
just lucky.
No, it just it's just, and it just keeps going like that.
Yeah.
You know, well, I could sit here and talk to you for the rest of the day, and we just one magical thing after the next, after the next. And don't forget earlier what I said. It takes great suffering to make great art. Most of the great poets have done that while they're either really, really suffering or in absolute bliss.
Yeah.
You know? Because one of the things I've learned, and I teach in the workshop now about both the light and the dark and the balance, is that the most important thing as an artist is you have to surrender your mind. Because in Chinese culture and the United States American culture, we're a mind-based society. It's all about the mind, it's all about control, and it's about how much you have. It's not about being connected. It's about being disconnected. So one of the first lessons I learned is from Dr. Beverly Schleifer was when you start doing mandalas, your brain switches to the right brain. And I don't know if this works in Mandarin, but in English they call the right brain because it's the right brain. That's the one we should be paying attention to.
Really?
We have a left brain world. And a left brain world can drop a bomb and kill people and go home and sleep at night like a baby. A right brain world be crying for months, weeks. You develop a disease if you weren't aware of if you couldn't overcome the pain of that. So by what I'm getting into, my modern teaching now, is that when you learn to go to your right brain by doing, let's say, mandala paintings, and you begin to go to your left side, the right brain, the left side, and your mind begins to release its control, and the soul begins to become alive. This is what really happened. It's all about the soul for me, because nobody knows, anybody in this room, where our mind is. But we know it works through the brain. If you don't have a brain, you don't have a mind. But where's the mind? We don't know. A spiritual teacher once told me, says, Paul, here's my phone number. If you can find any truth in the mind, give me a call. I've yet to find any truth. Right? So, when the mind begins to release control, when you're doing mandala paintings, you're working towards the center of the mandala, which is working also simultaneously to the center of your body. The center of your universe is here, not here. And we forgot this. Indigenous people, when I go to Hawaii, I'm called a holly. And what Hawaiian people call a holly is somebody that has no light. There's no life. Wow. They're just all in their mind. They're hollies. It's an insult, so they don't use it a lot. You know what I mean? There's the incense for Chinese people. There's not incense. What do you call that? Just negative connotations. I don't even remember what the word, slang. Anyway, so what began to happen to me as I started painting mandalas, or what I teach, is as you work towards the center, you're working towards the center here. You're coming down from here, down towards your heart. Whether you're looking at mandalas, drawing mandalas, painting mandalas, or in a room where somebody's painting mandalas, just that state of consciousness moves you towards your heart. And once you've found this and experienced it, you can really spend the rest of your life trying to get back there and trying to get back there and trying to keep that open. Because once that happens, to you, spirituality and creativity would naturally flow for the rest of your life. It would never stop. But it's only if your heart is open, because you see your soul uses your heart similar to the mind using your brain. So the soul uses your heart. So the more heart is open, the more you have connected with your soul. And the soul has limitless possibilities. I've studied artists. I just came back from 10 days in Florence studying art. Saw all the great paintings there, and I just stood in front of them in just awe. 500 years old, and they're so beautiful. Botticelli's. Nobody in the history of humans have ever painted women as beautiful in the West as Botticelli. Of course, there's some incredible Chinese painters and Japanese painters, but I was thinking about that Botticelli's Naked Birth of Venus, and I lost my whole train of thought.
The Birth of Venus.
So what was I talking about before that? I was talking about the
Tons
heart.
of things.
Yeah,
The
heart get connected.
the soul, the
right.
brain.
So when you start to work on a mandala, it opens your heart, and when your heart opens, the soul begins to expand in your life. And there was a very famous artist named another Paul Cézanne. And when I was teaching a workshop in Hawaii, and I collect quotes, I have a big thick book of famous quotes. Now with chat, AI, you can probably get most of them, but I read hundreds of books, kept quotes, typed them all up. And this woman went for a walk in a workshop and came back and said, here's a quote. It was just sitting at some place. And she says, do you like this quote? And I read it and I go, I'll never forget this quote for the rest of my life.
What is that?
It says, the difference between a good artist and a wise artist is the wise artist knows when to let himself be overthrown by a force that has a far greater capacity than our artist has ever imagined.
Wow.
So the difference between a good artist and a wise artist.
You remember word by word.
Yeah. Is that the wise artist knows when to let himself be overthrown by a force that has a far greater capacity than he's ever known or he's ever imagined. Now that one statement is summed up of basically what the mandala teaching is. Some force begins to happen. When you see her video that her husband made, you can look at somebody, there's 5 or 6 people on there. They took the class once or twice. They were never the same person. They're just a different person. And I haven't seen any of these people in 10 years. So when I was looking at that thing last night, I was going, wow. These guys are good. They're really some fantastic artists. And they're all artists. I mean, they're artists. That's what they do. And they don't do only mandalas. They do other things. And so what happened in the workshop for them is they somehow knew how to let themselves be overthrown by the force. And the force is basically the soul. So summing up what I'm saying is you put the feminine first and the masculine second. Right? It doesn't mean the masculine is not as important. It just means it's secondary. Now, let's apply this to life somewhere. Man, meaning mind, can run across a field, shoot another man, baby, go home at night and sleep. That's the man, that's the mind. Mind means man. Man means mind.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now, you take a bunch of women, the feminine, running across the hill, and there's a bunch of women coming at them from the other way, and they're going to drop their weapons. They're going to say, hey, I'll show you how to make bread. I'll show you how to make a falafel. Let's go feed the children. Let's go home. Let's be one.
Let's cook.
Let's cook. Yeah. Let's cook noodles.
Why war? Let's cook.
Well, the mind is always based in power, and all wars are power. Not by both sides, but by one side. I mean, I'm going to say the U.S., and I hate talking politics, but I'll use an example. The U.S. right now is bombing horribly, terribly another country, only for one reason.
The oil?
Power, well, yeah, that's all part of power. Because they can't fight back.
Yeah.
They can't fight back.
Yeah.
We would not bomb a country that could fight back because that would be terrible for us. But if we bomb somebody else that can't fight back, that's power. That's how it works. Now, no women would blow up children and babies and hospitals.
Animals.
Yeah.
No.
So
we don't do that.
When you apply what I've learned about my heart, my soul is the female, the mind is the male. This is the center, and this, when you're in your heart, everything is connected. You care. You have compassion. When you're in your mind, it's always about power. Every billionaire wants to have more money.
Yeah.
In the United States, we have 650, I looked it up a while back, so 650 billionaires. What do they all want to do? Pay less taxes.
Yeah.
All of them. It's insane. They are absolutely insane. That's like saying, hey, I own 45 million trees and 17,000 billion cars, and I want more cars, more trees. You just look at the billionaire and you go, you know, Deepak Chopra made a quote. He says, if you have a lot of money and you don't have conscious, a lot of money means, you know, 100 million up. That's a lot. You know, millions these days, nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing.
So if you have a lot of money and you don't have the consciousness to go with the money, it's one of the worst incarnations you can have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's 100% greed. Even though Bill Gates has given away billions, you know, if you think about this, years ago in America, I'm sure it was here too, we used to think of nerds as weird people, funny people. But nerds own all these companies, these massive companies, all the Oracle and all that are all owned by nerds because they're intelligent.
Yeah. We
think. But now that AI is here, it could be pretty dangerous. Because I'll tell you something funny, that they just had AI, project AI in the United States. What's happening in 10 years?
Yeah.
10% unemployment because AI has taken over everything, and 10% would be 30 million people out of work. That's what AI said. And people are going, no, that's never going to happen. We don't know if that's never going to happen. We don't know if it's never going to happen. So in sharing something with you like that, once you understand the basic male and female, then you begin to see where it works in society. The thing about artists that's different than other paths is that we don't have beliefs. We have experience. The things I'm sharing with you, I've experienced them as real. Of course, this is what the Dalai Lama says. Any religion, find out if it's true for you, keep it. If it's not true, get rid of it. Right now, get rid of it. And they asked him once, and I've been with him 6 or 8 times, they asked him once, what would you do if they proved there was no reincarnation? He goes, well, I'd stop believing it. No problem. But how are you going to prove that? And
how do you prove it?
Yeah, how do you prove it? And I've read some Buddhist things that it's almost impossible not to believe in reincarnation.
So you believe that, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
I do.
And the older I get, the more I believe it.
Yeah.
So you're doing mandala. What doesn't matter what level you're doing the mandala at it, you're going to learn things and you're going to experience things. The group I talked to last night, I said if I could have you 30 days, we could be here 30 days together, and we'd start off teaching, spiritual teaching and experience. You'd leave the room in 30 days a different person. You'd be changed for the rest of your life.
I totally believe it.
And we don't have teachers like that in our society, you know. It's that long learning thing, and nowadays if you graduate from college in the United States, it doesn't mean you're going to have a job. When I wrote my last book, I said, well, I'm a graduate of fine arts at the University of California. And my son said, Dad, don't put that on there. It'll make it look worse. He says, if you don't have a master's degree, you don't even publish that you graduated from college. Oh. And I went, wow, when I was young, that was everything. I graduated. Yeah, I made it, you know. So now, do you have some specific questions? Because I just kind of rambled my beginning and then I brought it up to modern day.
It's so fascinating. Yeah. I don't want to interrupt, but let's have a break and then we come back.
Okay, namaste.
我哋停一停先 ，OK。好，咁我哋停一停先，陣間翻嚟再傾過 ，OK。